Well, it's 11 a.m. here on the East Coast in Washington, where the Supreme Court has released its decision on the United States versus Rahimi. In an 8-1 vote, the justices ruled to uphold a law that bans gun ownership if someone has been the subject of a domestic violence restraining order. So let's bring in CBS News legal contributor and professor at Loyola Law School, Jessica Levinson, talk a little bit more about this. We kind of talked about it when it came down, but in case people are just tuning in right now, Jessica, give us an overview of what was the decision that the court made.
So the court said 8-1 that when it comes to somebody who's subject to a domestic violence restraining order, that it is okay to take away their right to gun ownership, at least temporarily, at least while they are subject to that domestic violence restraining order. And I think what's important for people to know is they probably think conservative court upholding a gun control restriction isn't this surprising. And I would say, and as Jan Crawford has previously explained for all of us, it's not surprising because what the court is really doing is clarifying its standard from 2 years ago in a case called the Bruin case, where the court said, we will allow restrictions on gun ownership and use if it is consistent with our nation's history and tradition. And what the court said today is this is consistent with our nation's history and tradition because we are allowed to say that we disarmed people who were dangerous, people who pose a threat of danger to others. And so while there is not an exact historic analog, while you cannot say, because we didn't have domestic violence restraining orders, that there was a similar restriction when the Second Amendment was ratified, it's enough to say we understood that if somebody posed a danger to others, we could limit their right to bear arms. And the court today, I think what's important is it's providing clarification and guidance for lower courts who, frankly, I think didn't know exactly how to apply that standard. And now they're saying it is possible to satisfy, and here's an example of when you can satisfy it.
Let's bring in CBS News. Jan, let's talk about the role of domestic violence and the aspect that played in this ruling. Justice Thomas, known as a traditionalist, as someone who takes the Constitution as it is written, break down his argument or what he sort of ruled. He was the lone dissenter.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this case is interesting because it kind of, for the last couple of years, there's been a big question. All right, let me get big picture for a minute, Vlad. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. I love
just
that.
bear with me.
Love big picture.
Looking at this Supreme Court, which obviously 6 conservatives, 3 liberals, for the last couple of years, we've been wondering, like, what is this court? What are they doing? Who is this court? Who's in control of this court? And there's been some speculation that this is the Roberts Court. He's the Chief Justice, but he's a little more moderate conservative. Or is it the Thomas Court, the originalists, like you said? Let's look at what, it was the original understanding, the original meaning of the Constitution. Let's stick to that. Was Thomas going to carry the day? Because Thomas had always been kind of, this one voice who has a very unique view of the law. After the death of Justice Scalia, he was, and even before then, he was the clearest voice on wanting to overturn cases that he didn't think were rightly decided, on really holding people to what the Constitution meant at the time, the understanding at the time. And today we see that, yeah, this is a case where Justice Thomas is still going to be that one voice pressing that kind of unique conservative view of the law. And so today we see him in dissent saying that, back in the good old days, when the country was founded, we didn't have laws against domestic violence. It wasn't. And so today, the Second Amendment, this just doesn't fit. He's worried about the process. How did Rahimi have the proper process? But his bottom line, as Jessica pointed out earlier, was that there wasn't a comparable law at the time. So that's why we can't have that today. Well, listen, that's the great thing about the Supreme Court. One justice doesn't get to decide things. It takes 5. And today we had 8 who said, as Jessica just explained, that if you look, this is consistent with historical tradition. The legislatures have always been able, going back time immemorial, legislatures have always been able to keep guns out of the hands of people who are dangerous to themselves or to others. And no one, and this was true with the argument, no one seemed more deserving of having their gun taken away than Zacky Rahimi, who was just out shooting up all kind of things, including, threatening another woman after he was under a restraining order from threatening his old girlfriend, and other innocent people at a fast food joint when a credit card got declined. I mean, so as it came out at argument, this is a poster child. But domestic violence laws and disarming people under those orders, that's just one class of laws that the government has now. The government can take your gun away if you're a felon. It can now take your gun away if you're a drug addict. Those are other laws. There are other laws restricting the kind of weapons that people can possess. And all of those, the court is emphasizing today, are consistent with the right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment. The government can have reasonable restrictions on gun ownership, and potentially, I think we'll have a case next term on the kind of weapons people can possess.
All right, Jessica Levinson, Jan Crawford, thank you both very much. Appreciate it.